go. Today's YouTube video is the summer solstice. Today we're going to check out all the locations, weather app, UV index on this phone, sunrise and sunset graph on that phone, both on this phone. So please sure you hit the like and subscribe video. Agree. Let's pop this thing up. Let's do it. Please make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell button for more notifications. Thank you. Well, let's begin this summer solstice video. video. And do UV index, sunrise and sunset graph on this though. The index on that phone. So let's just pop up the field sun graph on this phone. There's that sunrise and sunset graph. Now we're gonna do a temperature and UV index. Temperature on that one and UV index on this phone. I'm doing the sunrise and sunset graph. Temperature, the index good. So now let's show all the UV index here. This one here. I'm going to do the UV index on this one, temperature on that one. No, done. Now let's move on to the next location, which is country, which is right here. Now what's going to do here, pop up the sunrise and sunset graph and compare. We can compare the long days in the summertime and the shorter days in the southern hemisphere and more hemisphere experience longer days. Now let's go to and check out the temperature on this phone and the UV index on this phone. Temperature graph. And here's the UV index graph. Done. Now we go to the next city, which is Orlando, Florida, after those stones. Orlando, Florida. Here's the Florida. I'm going to do sunrise and sunset graph in all three phones. Here's sunrise and sunset graph on all three phones, all three devices right there. No, it's good. This here we go. I'll do sunrise and sunset graph on this phone. UV index on this one and temperature on that one. Let's do that. Here's the temperatures. And here's the UV index in this one. I'm doing the temperatures and the UV index on the other phone. No. That city is also experienced in the southern hemisphere. Now let's compare this city here. Sunrise and sunset graph, temperature, and UV index. There's the sunrise and sunset graph. Things, temperature, and UV index. Here is a sunrise and sunset graph in this city. The comparison to Paris, France. Look at that comparison. And here's the UV index. And of course don't forget the temperatures. This one I experienced 24 hours of daylight. This city is also in the southern hemisphere. Take a look at their signs and things like that. Let's compare it to the northern hemisphere. This is the northern hemisphere way up in the north. That day is extremely long. Temperature and UV index. Look at that wild UV index because that long day. And then here's the quickly do the temperature here. And this is the course the UV index right there. Now let's move on. Press the done button on that phone. Alright, there we're on current location. Now switch to the next city. We're gonna do sunrise and sunset graph on this one. Temperature and UV index. Now, next city. City starts with the H. Now we're gonna do this here. We're gonna do is temperature. I'm gonna put the extreme sunrise here. Here. Yeah, there's the solstice sunrise and something goes in that city right here now. I'm gonna switch to UV index and see how extreme is UV index. Take a look. That right there. There we go. Here's the UV index. And we take a look at the sunrise and graph in all three phones and see which one is very extreme. This one is actually the middle phone is more extreme than the other two sunrise graph three. Noticing now the next city, Fairbanks. Now here's Fairbanks, Alaska's temperatures. Now we're looking at the sunrise graph in the other phone. Notice there's 24 hours. And because of that UV index of 3 right there. So the other UV indexes too. There's like U3. Let's see the temperatures like this week. Looks like they're 160s, upper 60s, and some days low 70s. Look like. Now, the next this sunrise and sunset graph on this location. Temperature and UV index. Back in the temperatures. Now exit out. Next location, Barrow, Alaska. I feel like this location. Where else? Here's a quick view of the temperatures, and here's the UV index. Look at why UV index 3 is. And also look at this one. Look at this 24 hours of daylight in Barrow. Look at this. The sun doesn't even dip below the horizon up there since it's so far north. The Earth's tilt is 23.5 degrees towards the sun in the northern hemisphere and 0.5 degrees away the sun in the southern hemisphere. Causes long days in the northern hemisphere and shorter days in the south. Here, now, back to temperatures. Now, back out. Next location, of course, the equator. Sunset graph. We can see the extinction of long days here. The equator experience exact 12 hours a day all year round. Since like cities are different. This is the smaller hemisphere, 23.5 degrees towards the sun. More hemisphere. Results of this much daylight. 23.5 degrees away from the sun, results of this day in the southern hemisphere, because this is the sun solstice, and so the extinction of different daylight. Let's see the UV differences. Thumbs. Look at that. Look at these UV index. Next day. So UV index of 6 is there. So not that right there must be a 5. Let's look at that. Look at that 5 right there. No. Fairfield's UV index is like this compared to the equator. Take a look at that equator. Look at that skinny equator. And Fairfield has now that's the equators UV index. Now we'll do the next city after that. Dubai, the southern hemisphere. Sunrise and sunset graphs will appear on this phone. And then that's not the sunrise and sunset. This one is. Here's the temperatures in UV index. Look at that. 12s. All 12s it looks like. Today 12 UV index of 12s. Because Dubai experienced. And there's sunrise and sunset graph on both phones. I didn't need to do that. Here it is. Compared to the Fairfield sunrise and sunset graph. Look at that comparison. Next city is this city. Next city is this one. Sunrise and sunset graph pop up here now. Temperature graphs on this phone. And the UV index graph on this phone. Move on to the next China. The sunrise and sunset graph on that phone. And the temperatures on this phone. Now, here's the sunrise and sunset graph on both phones. Now, let's go to the next location. Sunrise and sunset graph pop up on this phone. Compare that to Fairfield sunrise sunset graph. And then here's the temperatures. And now comparison temperatures here and there. Now here is the UV index. And we compare it city, and look how big these UV indexes are. Now, next location. So I experience over 17 hours a day. Like, look at that. UV index. Temperature here, and now that's the UV index. Next location, which is New York City. We're going to pop up with the sunrise and sunset graph on this phone. Look at that. It looks like it's in the middle of the day, so the sun is really high that day since it's summer solstice. Highest. Now here's the view of the temperatures. Looks very similar to Fairfield's temperatures. And the UV index. Here's the UV index. Not much different. No. Here's a quick comparison of the Fairfield sunrise and sunset and New York City sunrise and sunset. Look at those differences. Right in the sunrise and sunset pop up on that phone, and here's a temperature graph. The temperature really quick. I'll switch it to index really quick. There we go. That's the UV index, and you can easily compare this to Orlando's Florida graph. Of course, the UV index and the temperatures. Looks not that much different. No, next city after that, of course, it's the Southern Hemisphere cities again. Sunrise and sunset pop up on that phone. Look at the difference between the extinction of long days and short days again. And here's the temperatures. In the UV index comparisons. Look at that, a 1, not just in that city. Next city, Fairfield, California. Let's keep this sunrise up. Fairfield, California sunrise and sunset graph. Much different. Now, is the temperatures in the UV index. Some 10s there. Grade 11. And the final city of the weather app. Let's do a quick comparison. We will review the sunrise and sunset graph in that city. Temperature in UV index. Sunrise and sunset graph on that city. Temperature in UV index. Temperature, UV index. Southern Hemisphere, short day, sunrise and sunset graph. Temperature. Wait a minute, that one. Wait a minute, temperature. Temperature, that one. Wait a minute, that one, wait a minute. That is. Here's the UV index, a wide UV index. And that, of course, is the sunrise and sunset. Now, city right here. Temperature and UV index. And of course, the sunrise and sunset graph. There's an extinct difference that this city's sunrise and graph put on both phones. And the temperatures quickly compare the UV index on all three phones. All the UV index and everything looks not that much different. Now next city, look at that cool sunrise and sunset graph. UV index and of course the temperatures. Look at these temperatures. No, next city. What's this city here? I think this one might be in the southern hemisphere. Yep, that is southern hemisphere. That's shorter days. Let's see the UV index. I think it might be a 1 or a 2. See? Yep, ones. Shorter ones. There is.
Aiden, here is your
Alexa, turn off. Here's some UV index of 1 there and 2. No. Temperatures. And then and the last view of that. So sunset graph. Now our home city. Now here's the comparison of that sunrise and sunset graph. We're going to view our sunrise and sunset graph on this phone to compare this and that one. Also going to compare the temperatures in this location. And of course, here is the UV index. Back to the temperatures. No. Let's compare that to feels temperatures. And here is distinct differences. Is the UV index. And that's not the UV index. That's the temperatures. There is the UV index. There's all the days index. That's all the UV index. Now back out. That's of course all the locations here. No more locations. See, there's also no more new locations after that one. Like we just did on the red iPhone. Here, back to the home city. Thank you for showing every city sunrise and sunset graph and sunrise and graph in all three phones. And look at that. Look right there. Like that one's the LCD thing. Looks a little different. Looks more blue and two right there. Here's the UV index. And here's the last picture till the end of the video. Here's all the temperatures on every UV index here. Now, and this summer solstice video is with. So make sure. Sure you go. Make sure you hit the like. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the button for more notification. Now, okay, this video is over with. Stop the video like right here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.